Brooke, a lovely young girl, was raised in a joyous and affectionate household. On a certain day, her father bestowed upon her an extraordinary present, a tiny raven. Through nurturing and tending to the chick, Brooke would acquire a sense of responsibility and learn the importance of caring for another being. Regrettably, she passed away unexpectedly due to unknown causes. As her funeral took place, the raven settled on her coffin, and what happened next was nothing short of remarkable and miraculous. Though only 6 years of age, Brooke possessed strength, beauty, and independence beyond her years. She derived immense pleasure from exploring the garden, observing the plants and insects that thrived there. Running, jumping, and playing amongst the trees was her favorite pastime, often resulting in scraped knees and torn clothes from climbing them. Her enjoyment took precedence over any minor injuries she may have sustained during playtime. Observing fish glide through streams and birds soaring above brought her immense delight. Growing up in a small village nestled in the countryside of Cornwall, UK, life moved at a leisurely and peaceful pace. Brooke's mother stayed at home to look after the house and her child, and her father was a sailor who would often spend weeks or maybe even months away at sea. Brooke would miss him dearly when he went away, but she was always excited for when he finally returns. Not only did she get to spend some time with her father, but she also loved the strange, weird, and wonderful gifts that he would bring her. Over the past few years, he had brought her shells from a Caribbean beach, exotic sculptures from some far-flung Middle Eastern country, and books and toys from across Europe and America. She loved all of her gifts and enjoyed showing them off to her friends, as she regaled them with stories about how her father would sail the seas and travel the world. Brooke waited eagerly at the garden gate, waiting for her father to walk down the street. He had been away for 2 months this time, and he was due home at any moment. All of a sudden, she saw him slowly walking down the street. Brooke yelled with joy and ran towards him, throwing herself into his arms. She hugged him tightly and planted a big kiss on his cheek, but she noticed something: there was no gift. He would usually hand a gift-wrapped item to her straight away, but there was none to be seen. That's when he knelt down and placed something in her hand. She jumped as she felt it twitch in her palm and looked down to see a tiny baby bird. Her father told her that it was a small raven, no older than a week or two. He asked her to protect and look after it as if it were a real human baby. Brooke was confused, but her face lit up when she realized the big responsibility she had on her shoulders. Over the next few weeks, Brooke spent all of her time with the raven. She fed it, gave it water to drink, and even taught it a few tricks. Ravens are very clever birds, and hers quickly picked up what the little girl was trying to teach it. The chick also started to grow, and over the weeks it learned how to fly. Brooke would take it outside and watch it roam in the sky with adoration. It could easily fly away and never return, but it always found its way back to Brooke. It was clear that the girl and the bird had quite a strong connection, but one day tragedy struck. While out in the garden laying under the big tree, Brooke suddenly stopped breathing and clutched at her throat. The raven started loudly squawking, and within minutes, Brooke's parents came to the window to see what all the fuss was about. Seeing their daughter arriving around on the ground, they ran outside and scooped up, paying the raven no mind. They bundled the poor girl into the car and rushed her to the nearby hospital. The raven sat in the tree and watched the car disappear down the street before swooping in through an open window and perching itself on Brooke's bed. Arriving at the hospital, doctors quickly started to check Brooke's lungs. A girl so young and healthy shouldn't have any breathing issues, so it was important that they did scans on her lungs to make sure there were no issues and figure out what the problem was. It was also important to start her breathing again, as a lack of oxygen could cause some serious and irreparable damage. All the while, her parents watched on with tears in their eyes. Despite the doctor's best efforts, unfortunately, Brooke was declared dead. When they called the time of death, outside the window of a hospital room was the raven. He kept pecking at the glass and loudly squawking, but the staff kept shooing it away. A hospital was no place for a bird like that. It could not be allowed, and even if it was a pet. As Brooke's distraught parents drove home, the raven pecked at their car as well. Again, making a lot of noise, too stricken by they ignored it. Once they arrived home and began making funeral preparations, the raven kept trying to get their attention, But they had no time for it. The day of Brooke's funeral came soon. Her parents and family and friends all wept as they mourned the little girl laying still in her small coffin. The lid was open to allow people to say their goodbyes. She looked so frail and innocent in her coffin, as if she was some kind of precious porcelain doll. No one could quite believe that she was gone, and the grief in the room was palpable. Many people cried as they walked past Brooke, stroking her face and kissing her cheek. But there was one attendant at the funeral that many people had not expected to see. The raven was sitting in a nearby tree, watching over the proceedings. Every now and then, he would fly up and circle the gathered people, making a loud coining noise. Brooke's parents held their breath as it finally swooped down and perched on the coffin curiously, looking at his friend's body. Suddenly, the bird started to make a strange buzzing, cooing noise as if it was asking a question. It hopped to and fro from the lid to the side of the coffin, and then back again. After a few minutes, the bird started pecking at Brooke's body as if it was trying to wake her up. Her parents were moved to see such a sight, and while they recognized that the raven must have been feeling his own form of grief, they knew it couldn't stay there pecking at the girl. They tried shouting at it, but it wouldn't budge and even started pecking at her mouth. That behavior looked disgraceful to the family, but was hiding a secret motive everybody was about to discover. As the father approached the open casket, he flailed his arms in the air to shoo the bird. It flapped and squawked, but reluctantly took off and flew up to a nearby tree, looking down intently. All eyes followed the raven as he made the short journey, but as they all focused back on the coffin, they froze. Brooke was sitting up on her lap, was a walnut-sized kind of egg, one that had come from an insect and grown and multiplied. It had become lodged in her throat after falling out of the tree that she had been laying under in the garden. Upon being hurried to the hospital, doctors initially suspected a problem with Brooke's lungs, thus they only conducted a chest x-ray that yielded no results. Overlooked by the medical team was Brooke's throat, which was the actual source of the problem. Deprived of sufficient oxygen, she slipped into a coma and was mistakenly declared deceased, although her breathing remained slow and shallow. As Brooke gazed at her mother and father, they enveloped her in a tight embrace, showering her with hugs and kisses. The realization that their daughter was still alive left them stunned. It dawned on them that the raven had been aware of this all along. The raven had made numerous attempts to convey this crucial message to Brooke's parents, but they failed to comprehend its significance. The bird's pecking at Brooke's face and mouth was its attempt to remove the obstruction, allowing her to breathe. Gratefully, the raven's persistence and quick thinking had provided enough time to save Brooke's life. How do you feel about this incredible tale? Can you imagine being present at Brooke's funeral and witnessing such a breathtakingly astonishing event? We always welcome and appreciate your thoughts and viewpoints, so please feel free to share them in the comments section below. I hope you liked this video. Please share and subscribe to our channel. Thank you.